Hello and welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling. I'm your host, JP John Paz. With me today, a very special guest, known as the rock star, the headliner. You've probably seen him on a lot of Northeast independent shows. He is, of course, a current ISPW superstar, Mr. Rick Recon. Rick, welcome to the two-man power trip. How you doing?
Fantastic, brother. Thank you for having me.
So what's going on in your world? What's up?
Well, I just came off of a stint on AEW out Dark Elevation against Dalton Castle and the boys, that ROH six-man tag champs. Uh, they pulled out the victory, but it was an honor to share the ring with them. So that just happened. And now I'm getting ready for the King of ISPW tournament this Friday in Ottawa, New Jersey.
Very cool. Well, definitely, I'll get back to AEW in one second, but I wanted to mention ISPW King of ISPW tournament, 9/23. Obviously, like you mentioned, Friday in Totowa at the ISPW Arena. Pretty cool. That's going to be an interesting show. I know ISPW always does big things here in Jersey.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a hell of a show. I mean, the eight competitors in that tournament I mean, it could go either way into any one of them. So I'm honored to have been selected, to have been in this tournament.
It's going to be a little personal with you and Danny Morrison. Obviously, if you guys meet in the tournament, but you kind of stole his manager, Dave LaGreca. You know what I mean? You kind of took that from him.
Listen, and I didn't steal Dave at all. Okay, Dave's a grown man, and Dave decided to go with what he saw as the future of not only ISPW but of this business. No, I'm not going to sit here and knock on Danny Doring. I've done that before in several promos. I'm not going to do it here. He is a hell of a competitor. Obviously, he has earned the vet status 10 times over, but it's not his time anymore. It's mine. So Dave obviously saw that and saw it was the time to go with the up and coming, hungry, truly hungry competitor, which is me. So that's my sense on that. So
Did you guys work that out beforehand? Did you know Dave was gonna, kind of join the ranks with you?
Dave came up to me beforehand, before the event, before he came out with me, and he had told me he was a little was annoyed. Obviously, Danny wasn't returning any of his calls. He felt that Danny had taken his eye off the prize, which is the ISPW Heavyweight Championship, which it seems that it did because he no longer has it. Justin Carino now has it. So clearly he lost that killer instinct that he had before. So we're here now where Danny has to fight his way back up onto the top. Problem is I'm nipping at his heels the entire time. He thinks that he's going to leave me in the dust. That's not happening. I absolutely refuse to be the one and done competitor in a tournament like this. I will do absolutely everything to not only get to the finals but to win. So, and Dave, I'm sorry, Dave is a very smart man. Obviously, he is the host of the number one wrestling show in the world. So, the man knows his stuff. He's been around. He has so many different connections and networks with so many different people. He sees it. He knows it. He knows it's the time. The time is now. So Dave's going to be by my side as he has been since we joined forces. My lovely lady, my number one lady, Miss DeVille, will also be out there. So I have people watching my back. Danny doesn't have that anymore. He burnt all his bridges. So I don't know what's going to happen for him, but it isn't going to be winning.
ISPW really has been stepping up. You know what I mean? Like they seem like they keep growing and growing. They always have big stars. They always, put on some great shows. Just tell me a little bit, just about your time so far with ISPW.
ISPW has given me a bigger and better platform in the about 8 months that I've been working with them than several other promotions have given me in the years that I've spent with them. And you can take that how you want. You can take that as me throwing shade or not. But they have given me opportunity after opportunity after opportunity because they see that I can step up to the plate and I can knock it out of the park. And that's what I do every single time I'm there. And the thing about ISPW is they don't just run wrestling shows. See, any, I'm going to put this nicely, any jabroni can get a professional, can get a license to run a show, can get some money together to run a show. But is it good? Is it worth the time? Does it give back to the fans? Does it elevate talent that's on those events? Most of the time, no. ISPW, just the name and you being associated with it elevates you. When they do shows, it's not just shows, it's events. There's always something that happens that leaves the fans wanting more and the fans remember, because regardless of how we feel, at the end of the day, it's about the fans. Okay, I may rag on them, they may boo me, I may give them all, I may run my mouth with them and trash talk them because sometimes they deserve it, but we are doing it for the fans. So a lot of places have forgotten that. ISPW hasn't. The focus is the fans and everyone that's there to give them moments. That's what professional wrestling's about. It's not just about the pop or the crazy spot fest that you can come up with. It's about what they remember and what they take home with them. And when those little kids grow up and they're adults, they remember what happened when they were 10 years old and the moments that they had, and when they saw their favorite wrestler, regardless of who it was, out there performing for them.
Very true. You sound very old school. Are you more? Would you say more old school than new school as far as some of like your style and just philosophy in wrestling?
I am, I would say I am the perfect mix of old and new school, honestly, because I can go out there and hang with anyone of any level, 30-year vets, guys 3 years in, doesn't really matter. I think professional wrestling is professional wrestling regardless. True pro wrestling is timeless. If I may use a crowbar reference there, true pro wrestling is timeless, and I feel that people need to get back to the roots of what it is. It's wrestling. It is psychology. It is a story. You could call it a performance. You could call it a fight. We know it doesn't really matter what you call it. But pro wrestling is the root of what we do. So, and that needs to not be lost for the next crazy thing that everyone wants to do. And that's fine that you do that. But again, if you just do them without any sort of, it's a car crash. Everybody, here's the thing. Car crashes, sure, people watch them. People rubberneck when they see a car crash, but they don't want to be involved in it. They don't want to be a part of it. And then once they pass it, they forget about it. That's what I like in a lot of the style of what I see today. They're car crashes, and they can be spectacular. But again, how many of them do you really remember after a while? You remember Hogan body slamming Andre the Giant. That's the moment you remember. And the thing is a lot of people don't remember so much the beginning of that, but they remember that moment. They remember, pick any WrestleMania moment that you can think of. You remember the moment more than anything else. So I feel that if people worked more for creating a memory and a feeling for the fans, I think they would be remembered more than they are.
I agree, and that's kind of an old school philosophy, but I mean, it's so true and it's so right. Some of those matches just blend together all the, the new style, like a lot of the I guess you could say flippity floppity, whatever you want to say. A lot of them just mesh together, but the moments, the memories, Hogan could do a finger point and people remember that forever, or cup his ear and everybody remembers that. I mean, you have to be emotionally invested with the guys rather than just, oh, that guy does a cool move or this guy does a cool move and like that's great, but you want to be emotionally invested for sure.
Exactly. Here's a perfect example of a match that if you just watch the match, some people, well, if you compared it to, if you took this match and put it next to, say, I don't know, and this isn't even knocking them because I'm sure somebody will say, oh, you're just trashing on them. If you took Rock and Hogan from Mania 18, I believe it was 18,
Yep.
right? Okay, it was 18. Oh, oof. I was waiting to say, if I got the Mania number wrong, Tommy Fair would rip me a new one. But no,
True.
Mania 18. If you took that match and you put that next to a Young Bucks match from today, I mean, somebody would go, "Oh, well, Hogan Rock. That's kind of simple. It's kind of boring, you know." But look at that crowd. I have never seen a crowd come up for anyone like they came up for them. Hogan 1 point. They lost it. The crowd was rabid. He had to do nothing but, his 3 punches, big boot and a leg drop, and like that was it. Like he just could stand there and do this. And you had whatever it was, 60, 70,000 people losing their minds over what some would call a very simple, basic match. No, but it didn't matter. It didn't matter. It was electric. It was two of the absolute best performers of all time in the ring at the same time. It was a moment in time and in wrestling history. And that's what people remember.
100%. And that crowd is just unbelievable. But it's Hogan and Rock's psychology that also makes them kind of, go nuts. Everything Hogan did was just picture perfect. Obviously, Rock played the heel, even though he didn't initially think he was going to be playing the heel. He played the heel really well. I mean, to me, I know star ratings don't really matter and that all that stuff is subjective, but to me, that's the 5-star match. I mean, that match is unbelievable. Hogan Rock.
Oh yes, of course. Yeah, that whole 5 star, this star, that star. That to me, that was I don't follow any of that really. It doesn't matter. That's just somebody's opinion on a match. Like, that's great. Like that's awesome. That's what he like see in matches, and that's great. That's fine. Everyone has their opinions. See, it's wonderful. Pro wrestling is, and this is so cliche, but just bear with me. Pro wrestling is like it's like ice cream. There's so many different flavors, and pretty much for the most part, they're all good. Like I don't really complain about any flavors of ice cream. Obviously, everybody has their preference, and there's the classic ones that are just the best, you know. But they're just opinions. Like, oh, that was a 5 star match. I don't know. I mean, I've watched a couple of like 5 star matches, and I was like, oh, it was good, but it didn't really do it for me, But then you watch another match that supposedly was a 3 star match or whatever, and it was great. And I remembered it, and it was fantastic, and it entertained, and it sold so many tickets and sold so much merchandise, which again, people seem to forget it's business. We're trying to draw people every 18 inches. If we're going
Yep.
by stadium standards, every 18 inches. That's what everybody was trying to do at the time. Now it's, hey, let's pop the boys. That's awesome. Fantastic. I hope the boys enjoyed the matches. I know obviously don't want them to be like, wow, that was terrible. That was boring. But people seem to forget the boys get in for free. They're not paying a ticket. They're already in the back already. They're already watching it. So my thing is, if you can entertain the crowd and entertain the boys in the back, you've done your job. You were something special. Again, that's my 2 cents. I'm sure somebody will shoot that down or disregard what I'm saying, but that's okay.
See, I'm kind of with you there too, especially the flavors of ice cream because I love like Brian Danielson, one of my favorite wrestlers. But then I love Sting, I love Hulk Hogan. Like, I mean, there's all these different kind of guys I like, but I feel like the guys that really made the most money in the business weren't necessarily work rate guys. Like Stone Cold Steve Austin, he was maybe a stunning Steve, but not a Stone Cold. Hulk Hogan, The Rock. I mean, these guys aren't exactly like work rate kings here. They're not Benoit and Eddie Guerrero. So to me, it's like I don't know. You want to put, like you said, put the butt every 18 inches. Go for more like the emotional investment, people really buying into you and the character, and just falling in love with you.
Yes, you have to. If you look at, here's another example, and I could do these analogies all day, but you look at, um, let's pick something that's not wrestling. Let's pick something you mentioned emotionally invested. If you look at, if you are a fan, let's say you're a fan of the Avengers movies, right? And the build up and story arc through all these different movies and everything. And there's a build. That's the other thing. They actually had a story arc and a build. They didn't just, shotgun finish everything or, just spit
Yeah,
out a random script. Let's do this. They had a build, you know what I mean? Just like a storyline and good storyline in pro wrestling. Because that's basically what we do. And but when you got to the end of the Avengers, or at least of this phase or whatever, you got to like, whatever the final movie was, End Game or whatever, and you had that moment of like, yes, that's it. That's the emotional investment that they built over 10, 15, 20 different separate movies, and it all built to that one last big hurrah scene with all the heroes all face down against the big bad heel, and took him down. That's emotionally investment. They're all, if you really sit there, they're all characters. They're all, if I might use the F word, fake. But it's an emotional investment in a ride that Marvel took everyone on. It's the same thing with professional wrestling. Same thing with sports entertainment. It's the same exact thing. If you emotionally invest people, they will come back. That's just how it works, man. It's worked that way for decades, and I'm not sure why people tried to reinvent the wheel there, but I think that is where our business is starting to go back to. Like we had this little bit of fling of, hey, let's do all the work rate stuff. And that's fantastic, believe me. I do those style of matches every now and again. I do them. I can do the 30-minute, like, let's go and do everything. I've done them before. But I've also done matches where we went 20, 30 minutes and we told a story. And man, I tell you what, I'm pretty sure the people remember that one more than the 30-minute, work rate match. And that's funny. You brought up Eddie Guerrero. That was actually another really good example somebody brought up to me. Eddie Guerrero, WCW Cruiserweight Eddie Guerrero. Fantastic. Oh my God, the guy could do stuff that I can only dream of in the ring.
yep,
But, and again, not knocking on this guy. I love Eddie to death. I do the Three Amigos for him. I do the Frog Splash for him. I love Eddie so much. It broke my heart when he died. Broke my heart. But Latino Heat, Eddie Guerrero, is who drew.
yep.
He drew. That's who sold tickets. That's who sold merchandise. That's who became world champion. Latino Heat. Why? Because he connected with the fans and people loved him no matter what he did. They loved him.
That is
If
true.
guys did that more, they would sell more. People would love them more.
That's true. Yeah, when he went to WWE, became Latino, he created that character. Man, everybody fell in love with him. When he was a heel, he was awesome, but then when he's a babyface, even better.
Oh, and he was the same guy.
Yeah, yep.
He was the same guy. And it was just, you loved Eddie Guerrero. That's it. He was just fantastic. So that was another analogy. Actually, that was a yeah, I'll kind of, maybe I'm putting him on the spot, but that's actually one Ace Darling brought that one up to me. He's like, that's literally what it's, so I'm kind of that's something he said to me, and I kind of always have it in the back of my head. He said, "Cruiserweight Eddie was great in the ring. Latino Heat was better. Why? Because he was better for business." So
Yeah.
that's just philosophy. That it changed a lot. That's why I'm always sitting here and always putting over ISPW, because the minds behind it and the veterans in the locker room that have helped to change the mindset of not just me, but like other young guns in the back and in the locker room. You can see it. You can see the change in these guys when they come out and how they work, how they present themselves, and how they carry themselves. It is something truly, truly special what Tommy Fierro was doing at ISPW. And after just a year being back, like he hadn't run any shows for what, like about 10 years? And he
Yeah.
came back guns blazing, man, everything. Just right out the gate. And every single event is just it delivers. So it's like you get, so that's why do you think I hopped on the train? Because this is, I felt it. I felt that. Just, it's not like I've been around a little bit. I've been around, I mean, not as long as a lot of guys there, but about 7 years. So it's not like I haven't seen things and been places and worked for different people. But this is just a totally different feeling, totally different vibe. So you know that's that's why I always put him over. So
Yeah, he's doing great. He's got the Wrestling Collector store. He's got ISPW. He's got the last match, the Broadway show. So, I mean, he's got a lot of stuff going on.
oh, I know. I tell you what, wrestling collection, man. That's like it's like Toys R Us for wrestling fans, man. I
Oh,
can
yeah.
sit in there all day. I could lose quite a bit of my bank account in that place. I tell you what.
Oh, yeah. He comes up with some stuff. I'm like, where the hell did you find this? It'd be like a Hogan, like rare hat from '85 or a towel or something. I'm like, where the hell did you get this from? Just so
I
much
don't
rare stuff. It's awesome. Yeah.
know where he finds it, man. I tell you what, I see but I tell you what, anything with like Undertaker, Bret Hart, anything like that, that's why I gravitate towards that stuff, especially.
Those
Like
are your
those are
guys, Brett and
dope.
Taker.
Taker, man. Edge too, actually. He's less the old school guys, but yeah, those guys are big influences on me. Taker, he's what did it, man. I saw Taker and I said, I want to be a professional wrestler. I loved Undertaker forever. He's like, to me, this if I have to choose a guy that's the favorite and the GOAT, I have to pick him. It's a hard choice, but Undertaker was always the guy for me.
What is it about Undertaker?
His presence, his aura, like his absolute dedication to the business, to WWF, to WWE. Just he was always there, and he was always willing to do good business. Always. He's a multi-time world champ, but if you look at his title reigns, they're not very long. Why? Because he understood that he could be the Undertaker. He didn't need a title to make him, and a lot of times he felt that other guys would be better and do better business as champion than he would. He understood that. He said it himself, actually, in a couple interviews. And I tell you what, though, also, like if you watched his Hall of Fame induction speech, he talked for what, an hour and a half? I could have listened to him all day. And I learned just by listening to him. So he just, everything he did to me was just always so awesome. So
And he's one of those rare guys where it's like, oh, he's just a gimmick. But then it's like, can he really work? Then he works with Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle and all these other guys. It's like, wow, he's a damn good worker for being that big too. It's like he's not just a gimmick; he's actually a damn good wrestler.
it's fantastic. I remember seeing him when he was, or going back, obviously, going back and watching some of the stuff he did in WCW as Mean Mark, and a lot of the work that he would do. When he got to WWF, they were like, "You got to pull back on that, man." He was doing a lot of stuff, a lot of
Yeah,
even like lucha stuff. he was moving like way too fast for a dead man or a guy guy that big should be going. But yeah, he could do all that too, but he didn't need to. And he understood that. He understood what his character was, and he played it. I don't know anybody else that could get over a undead Undertaker for 30 years, 30 plus years. There's nobody else that could have done it. Period.
Pretty
Like,
amazing. And he was athletic as hell too. Obviously,
that,
we didn't know it as much, except for doing old school early on as Undertaker. But then we learned, like, wow, this guy's damn athletic.
yeah. Oh man, see, watch him do any of those over the top dives at Mania. You went, oh, good lord. It was just yeah, he was always phenomenal to me. So he was big influence, obviously. You know, I'm not 6'10", 300 plus pounds, but I think it was just him and his dedication to his character and his presence was something that just resonated with me big time. And then Bret Hart just was so cool. So cool to me. I just loved him. I just always loved his look and how he worked and how he carried himself too. So yeah, I have a lot of different influences in pro wrestling. Those are two big ones for me.
Brett might be the best in ring, like just in ring guy, but he was so smooth. It was like ridiculous. I also love his character. Some people kind of, maybe underappreciate his character too, but I just always thought he was the best in ring guy I've ever seen.
Oh, smooth as anything. It was like the guy just. I don't think I ever watched him mess anything up ever, and I don't think he ever hurt anybody. He was always so good, and he could always just lead a match like just perfectly. He truly was the excellence of execution. Absolutely, like
That's funny.
hands down.
I was just talking to Tommy the other day about Tom McGee. Remember, I don't know if you remember Tom McGee, but there was a time when they were saying that he was like the next Hogan. This was before obviously Warrior came in, but they were like, "Oh, this guy's the next Hogan because he's
Yeah,
athletic, he's big, he's muscular, but he could do flips off the top rope." I mean, what an athlete, just an amazing guy. So they put him in the ring with Brett, and that's the infamous match where they lost the tape. And they now a few years ago they actually found the tape of the match. But Brett and McGee have this great match, and Pat Patterson and Vince are infamously watching it. And Vince is like, "We have our next star," and Pat Patterson's like, "Yep, Bret Hart." And Vince goes, "No, Tom McGee." So it's like even Vince was even fooled like how good Bret was. He was making Tom McGee look so good. He thought Tom McGee was like the next Hogan.
yeah. No, I remember reading about that, and sometimes, like it's funny. I feel like they tried that before with a few guys. Like I remember they tried with Lex Luger. They had him come out at the tapings with the title. Like, yeah, I don't even think he won it. I think they just wanted to see the reaction of what people would do, and they just went, "Nah, man, this ain't it." And that was it. And sometimes that's all it takes. You can tell, like after you do a little test run, you go, "That's not it." You
They
know, Lex
wanted
Luger
Bret in that era. Yeah.
phenomenal. I don't think there was probably was never a better physique all around than Lex Luger, but it just wasn't it. And sometimes it just isn't it. Like the physique isn't. I mean, it's incredibly important. You know, it really is. I train my ass off to even be like resembling in shape, but it's not always about that. Sometimes it really is how you carry yourself, your charisma, that it factor. Um, like, if you look at perfect, here's another example. Obviously, he was in shape, but he wasn't. He was never this like shredded type guy like Lex Luger type guy, huge dude. Was Stone Cold. Like, if you really look at him, he's a big guy, but like he's unassuming. In a sense, he's almost unassuming because he just got black boots, black trunks. His little knee brace thing, his little knee brace gimmicks. And a goatee and he's bald. He looks like an ass kicker, but you're kind of like, oh, he looks kind of sort of simple, but dude, the guy starts talking, he just has it. He was
Yep.
just guy. And he was just, you couldn't deny him no matter what. And so I think that's just sometimes how it is in wrestling. Like if the people believe in you and the people want you, you're going to be the dude. You're going to be the guy. That's it. And as long as the top people listen to that, like that's just it. He sold more merch and more tickets and more pay-per-views than just about anybody besides Hogan, I think.
Yep.
So yeah, Stone Cold, that was it. So that was the guy. But I'm sure they brought him in as the ringmaster. They clearly didn't think he was the guy when
Yeah,
they
he wasn't
first.
cutting promos either. DiBiase was cutting promos for him. Yeah.
No, I know he was, and he's like, I can talk, right? And then that was it. And he went, "Nah, I'm gonna be Steve Austin, Stone Cold Steve Austin." The story goes that he came up with the name. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. Sometimes that's the guy, and when the people feel it and connect with somebody like they connected with him, that's it. That's the guy to go with, run with him, and they did.
Absolutely. Now I want to rewind back just from the beginning of the convo, but just about AEW because I was just so fascinated that you were there. I know you've been there before, but how did that all come about? Wrestling Dalton Castle and the boys.
Well, it was, if I'm going to pull the curtain back just a little bit, is they were in my hometown, actually. It was their first event in Albany, New York, hometown. And, which was funny because I was surprised that they hadn't come there before, but that was kind of WWE territory for the longest time. I mean, there's so many different moments that happened. The Boston beer truck happened there. Edge cashing in the Money in the Bank. The first Money in the Bank happened there. The 1992 Royal Rumble with Flair winning the title happened there. There was a lot of history in that building. So I was surprised that they hadn't come through yet, up until, this past week. And so I already done some work with them about a year ago. And I just reached out to them and said, "Hey, this is my hometown. I would love to work in the arena that I'd seen my first professional wrestling event." And they said, and I got the invite back and said, "Come on down. Let's work." And
Awesome.
you get there super early. You wait, you hurry up and wait. That's show business. That's pro wrestling
Yep.
for you. Hurry up and wait. We did. Oh, did we? And you wait and see what they're going to do with TV because there was a lot of extras there, and unfortunately, not all of them got used. I was one of the fortunate enough ones to be booked. I'm sure they took a look at me and were like, "Okay, well, the guy's in shape. Guy's got gear. Oh my God, the guy has wrestling boots. We got to put him on TV. He has boots because no one has boots anymore. Everybody has these wrestling shoes and kick pads.
Yep.
I don't do that. I wear wrestling boots because they're cool." So,
Nice.
and I looked around, and there was the sheet, and it said Dalton Castle and the boys versus myself, Jay Bougie, and dude named Omar. And I said, "Okay, here we go. This is what I'm talking about." And the thing is Dalton Castle, up until recently, he was living in the area. It was kind of he was like the hometown boy in a sense. People knew exactly who he was, and the second he came out, everyone knew exactly who he was. Everyone reacted as if this was his hometown. And it was special standing across the ring from him and him reaching out his hand to do the code of honor, the shake, because he's the Ring of Honor 6-man tag team champion with the boys. But to be able to shake his hand in the middle of the ring, middle of that ring in my hometown arena, that was special, and that's I'll always remember that.
Very cool. That's awesome how it all came about. Are you allowed to say who contacted you, like to come in? Are you allowed to say the name, if you will? Like, is it Christopher Daniels?
I can tell you who it is, but if anybody asks for the email, sorry about that. No bueno. That. It was Sean Dean. He's the guy who Captain Sean Dean. He's a fantastic individual, good dude, great worker. I really would love to see him more on TV. He absolutely deserves it. I'm not just saying that. He's very, very good. I've watched him several times. But yes, he's really cool guy. He's very professional. He knows how to run. Uh, he knows how to run a locker room with all the extras, all the talents, put them exactly where they have to be, and get them ready for everything. So kudos to him. Uh, so everybody there was a joy to work with. I'll say that everyone was great to work with. It was fantastic sharing a locker room with Chris Jericho and Mark Henry and Daniel, or excuse me, I'm so sorry, I almost called him Daniel Brian Danielson. See, I still gotta flip the name there. Just so much talent in one locker room from so many different areas, so many different places. So again, it was an honor to work with them, and love to do more work with them. See where it goes.
So open ended, like as far as coming back or doing more work with them or
Yeah,
wrestling with them.
yeah, it's open ended. I didn't burn the bridge. I certainly didn't get my bags thrown out the back door or anything. So it's I would say it's open ended. Got good feedback. They're good people to work with. They really are.
Is there any place you haven't worked that you would like to work?
Yes, I mean there's about a million places I haven't worked. I'd love to work, but yeah, I would say specifically from besides WWE, because that's the always been
Right.
the end. Is I would love to do a stint or a tour or what have you with New Japan. I feel that I love their product. I always have. It has influenced my style to an extent, and I feel it's just something that if you have on your resume, if you have as you've checked off that bucket list, they look at you in a different light and say, if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. It's like New York, but better and way more exotic. Less rude,
Yeah.
less rude too.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's in New Japan or anywhere in Japan, to be honest, because it's just they're fantastic performers, great, wonderful, welcoming people. So that's where I'd like to go before WWE.
As we hit the wind down, we head towards the finish. Do you have some dream matches? Some guys out there that you hadn't wrestled that you'd like to wrestle, or even some guys, from the past? I know obviously Brett and Undertaker would be on the list, but is there some dream matches that you'd love to have out there?
Oh, there's quite a few of them, but one of them would I would say probably, and I would have to say that the two specifically for me, and there's a reason why, and they're both because they're both the top guys in their respective promotions. One would be Kazuchika Okada from New Japan because he is the Rainmaker. He is the best that
Yeah,
they have. And on WWE would be Roman Reigns because again, he is the top guy, the pinnacle, the best in the business. Those are the guys I want, the best, because those are the guys you need to work with to become the best.
I agree. Those are the two best in the business right now. You throw Brian Danielson out there too, but those are probably the two top guys for sure. So what's next for you? Like, what's next? Like, what do you got on the horizon? What's on your radar?
The biggest thing for me is King of ISPW. That's the, I mean, there's other things as well, but that is the biggest thing right now. That has my absolute focus because the guy that wins that, his career is going to take off. So that's it. That is the start for me. That's my absolute focus. There's other things that are coming up. It's kind of one of those cases of like to be announced type thing. but
Hmm.
there is a lot coming up. There's a lot coming up. And believe me, when those things are allowed to be announced, as I always do, I will be putting it out there. I will be spamming it everywhere like I always do. I'm not hard to find. I'm certainly not hard to. I always know how to push myself. You know what I mean? Advertise myself.
So it's ISPW King of ISPW tournament. You go to ISPWWrestling.com, of course. 9/23 Friday, Totowa, New Jersey, ISPW Arena. David LaGreca will be there in your corner. But you mentioned social media stuff. Where can everybody find you? Give us all your plugs.
Well, Facebook, that's easy. Search Rick Recon. I'll come up. I'm the cool looking dude standing next to Dave LaGreca. Twitter is at Rick Recon, the number one, and Instagram is at Rick_Recon.
All right, Rick, we will be looking forward to seeing you, of course, more in ISPW and maybe AEW and elsewhere. But thank you for all the time tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I'm very honored. I love these. I love doing these.